Republican Congresswoman Liz Cheney of Wyoming shared new details yesterday about what she says she experienced on January 6th. Speaking at a conference in Washington, Cheney recounted a conversation she had with an unnamed Republican colleague shortly before the violence broke out, who she says was going along reluctantly with Donald Trump's plan to block the certification of election results.
In the cloakroom on January 6th, before the attack happened, there were so many who wanted to show they were objecting that they'd set up these sign-up sheets in the cloakroom. And as I was sitting there, a member came in and he signed his name on each one of the state's sheets. And then he said under his breath, "The things we do for the orange Jesus." And I thought, you're taking an act that is unconstitutional.
Gene, it'd be funny if it weren't so awful what happened after he signed those papers and talked about orange Jesus, but it is just it's so telling about the state of the Republican Party that they know how dangerous and how bad it is, and they still sign those papers and sign along with whatever Donald Trump tells them to do.
Exactly. They all know, all except the most extreme wingnuts, know perfectly well what they're doing, and they know it's wrong, but they do it for Orange Jesus. They do it because Donald Trump is, they see Donald Trump as the master of the Republican base, and if he gets mad at them, their career is potentially probably over, and so they do it out of that fear. It is stunning how craven Republicans have been in the face of Donald Trump, and look where it's gotten us. That if the people who knew that what they were doing on January 6th was wrong had done the right thing, we wouldn't be in this mess. But they went along with Trump, and that's where the Republican Party is, and likely will stay until it gets wiped out in an election.
Yeah, certainly hard to find a moment that better encapsulates Trump's hold over the party than that one. Mike Barnicle, we should note Liz Cheney talking about efforts to reform the Electoral Count Act so to prevent something like January 6th from happening again, making clear the vice president's role just ceremonial. House and Senate working on bills, likely not coming up till after the midterms, however, because of the politics involved. But I want to also ask you one other thing about Liz Cheney. She, of course, was defeated soundly in her primary this summer. And yet here she is, still trying to pass legislation to safeguard the American electoral process. And next week will once again preside over a January 6th hearing, doing her duty to the end, putting patriotism over party.
Do you suppose that Liz Cheney is the only member of the Republican Party who watched a portion or anything at all of former President Trump's rally in Ohio Saturday, the QAnon rally? Do you suppose she's the only Republican who watched that litany of danger that proceeded in an Ohio summer night? I mean, it was unbelievable just to watch the clips of it. And, Caddy, I don't know whether you got the opportunity. You were overseas, obviously, but the rally that occurred that I'm talking about was frightening, to put it frankly, frightening, to watch a group of people clearly devoted acolytes to something that very few understand, following a man who knows exactly what he's doing, but stands at the precipice of presenting an even further threat to our democracy. And thus far, from what I've read, what I've heard, what I've seen, not a single important member of the Republican Party in either the House or the Senate has said anything about what occurred.
Yeah, I mean, Donald Trump's tactics when it comes to things like this are always so interesting because he goes right up to the line of something he could be accused of, but stops just short of it. So you have his campaign team saying, well, that song that was being played, that was not actually the QAnon anthem. It was just, it happens to be a song that sounds rather similar to it. And the sign that they were putting up with their one finger, follow the one, they disavow that too as some kind of cultish-like salute. But, QAnon is a seriously dangerous conspiracy that has people committing acts of violence around the country. And President Trump in the past has refused to disavow the organization, even though he was pressed on it when he was in the White House. And here he seems to be in Ohio, flirting with it even more aligning himself with it even more closely, but in this way that he has of being able to deny that that's what he's doing. I don't know if Liz Cheney was the only one to watch that. I mean, there's even a debate about whether Donald Trump was actually invited to J.D. Vance's rally at all, or whether he just showed up of his own accord. I mean, whatever the case is, Republicans have to deal with Donald Trump, as Liz Cheney suggested on January the 6th. They are struggling to know how to deal with him, but they don't know how to stand up to him. And they still don't know how to stand up to him. And they still, I guess, feel that he is more of an electoral asset than he is an electoral liability.
Well, then they fear his voters, of course, the man they call Orange Jesus. We'll have